Up next, we have a question from Toxictoy from the HighStrangeness subreddit. David Grush has stated, quote, "There is a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the US populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral," end quote. Did you find evidence of this campaign in your investigations? And if so, does it extend to social media, including Reddit, today?
Well, the evidence. This is an evidence question. I don't know what constitutes evidence. I think it's a tricky matter. I mean, certainly much has been written and said alleging this over a long period of time that has made its way into the public sphere, and privately credible sources have reported this same uh, uh, allegation to Congress. And some of this are credible sources that the government has conducted exactly these kinds of operations. I, I do not know for sure the answer to this. I think that we can't rule it out. I think when it comes to something that the government thinks is a core national security secret, that I don't have trouble imagining that this is correct.
Absolutely. Do you have this is just a follow-up question from me for people who are concerned about disinformation on social media or on Reddit, what do you think are some of the better sources that people can look to for information about the phenomenon that's reliable?
You know, I I think that disinformation, misinformation can pop up in all kinds of places. At the same time, I think that credible, true, accurate, historically accurate stuff can also turn up in lots of different places. You know, people with credible people with stories to tell have a hard time getting a platform that will allow them to publish their beliefs and their information unless they publicly identify themselves, for instance. And this can lead even the most credible sources to resort to secondary and tertiary types of outlets to post their message. So, I really think that the answer to this question is that you just have to educate yourself. You have to read as much as you can and develop a sense of what you can, think is credible or not, and see what everybody else thinks about it. At the same time, I think, you just also have to accept that there's going to be a great deal of uncertainty around this topic until the day when there is disclosure and there is real congressional oversight and the news media really gets after it and so on to get a really accurate, detailed picture to emerge, is what I would say.
This question comes from Zentigrate 108 from HighStrangeness. What have insiders said about how to overcome the legal issues blocking disclosure, specifically regarding Hal Puthoff's comments in the program?
Well, I'm not terribly comfortable addressing this question. It is. I'm not a lawyer, and anyone listening or subsequently reading any transcript about this should always consult a lawyer themselves if it's pertinent to their plans or circumstances. But it is my personal view, and I absolutely stress that this is a personal opinion, that people with knowledge of what the government knows and has been doing can share their information with congressional committees, with individual members of Congress, with little to no risk of being held legally liable for violating their security oaths and non-disclosure agreements. I do know lawyers and some lawyers who are who have been thinking about this question advise that there are no cases that they are aware of where the government has even tried to do this. Um, so my sense is that a source wishing to report inappropriate or unlawful activity to Congress need not be deterred from reporting such information to a relevant committee of jurisdiction, just because, or even if that committee is not officially cleared to receive that information. I mean, if you think about it, otherwise Congress would be in an impossible bind. If the executive branch is hiding a program or activity or information from Congress, and they're saying to their employees, "You can't tell Congress about this, or you're going to get, or you'll get prosecuted." How in the world is Congress ever supposed to uncover this? Unlawful from congressional perspective, unlawful activities. Furthermore, I think the United States government itself is in a bit of a bind here. After all, the government says this is all baloney. We don't have any such crash recovery or reverse engineering program. We are as in the dark about UFO, UAP as the general public. Well, how can they then turn around and try to prosecute someone for claiming that that's not true? It's a very tricky situation for them, right? Like, yeah, Congress, none of this is real, but we're going to prosecute this person for telling you that it is real. Um,
Mm.
so uh, yeah, let's um, yeah. I mean, I'm fundamentally asking the question: can you take legal action against someone for informing Congress about programs that officially do not exist? Um, I think that to prosecute someone, they would have to admit that the reporting is accurate. And if they do that, then Congress is going to say, "Wait, what? You're going to then prosecute somebody for telling us that you've been lying to us for decades or withholding this information?" So, look, I think that if I were a person in the shoes of a Hal Puthoff or anyone else, you bet I'm going to be concerned about the the legal repercussions of me coming forward, even if I do it in private. That I ask Congress not to out me. That's a serious thing to ponder. But I also think that you're probably going to be okay if you choose to do that. And I also will emphasize that I think that it is really important that people do this. I don't think. I mean, we may get disclosure through the executive branch. Who knows? Maybe Donald Trump is going to decide to be the disclosure president. But if not, if it's up to Congress to push through this, Congress is going to have to hear from more credible sources, first with firsthand involvement. And I think that they've been good so far, as far as I know, about protecting the identity of these people who have come forward. And I trust that they will continue to do that. Um, so I think it's a yes, it's a risk, but I think it can be navigated.
This one comes from Initial Anteater 377 from our HighStrangeness. Lou Elizondo has mentioned multiple times that we don't have the luxury of time, and so disclosure must happen now. Do you know what he could mean by this? And do you know of any impending event or contact that seems to be implied by his statements? Thank you for what you were doing.
I'm guessing, Kirk, you want me to answer that? Um,
Yes, I would prefer. Yeah.
Hot potato.
yeah. So, so we have no proof of anything, but there's some people out there on Reddit and Twitter that are saying the Galactic Federation is coming back, and you know, when they do, we're gonna have to do certain things. They're looking for us to be at a certain level of maturity, I guess. And if they don't see that, they're gonna, move on or whatever the case may be. And that might be what he's alluding to, because even though Lou and I talk quite a bit, we've never, there's usually so much to talk about that we never get all the points. And that would probably be the best answer I could give, is that supposedly if there's 4 aliens, 20, 80, whatever the number is, some kind of federation where there's a group of them is supposed to be coming back, and we're supposed to interact with them. I'm just hoping and praying that if time is running out, that either we reach the level of maturity that we're supposed to hit, and if not, if somebody knows the answer, tell us what it is so we can get there a lot quicker. And if not, I guess we'll find out.
This one comes from Under the Current 7 in Our High Strangeness. Thank you, James Fox. What is the biggest piece of evidence that changed your view or made you really want to continue the incredible work you do?
Boy, that's a good question. I mean, it's in different stages. I would say one of the most profound moments for me was when and again, I'm not going to sit there and prove why I believe what I believe, but probably when I sat down with Military X in Brazil, and what I knew it took to get him to sit down with us, the years and years it took for our team, Marco Leal, thank you for that. That I'm looking into the eyes of a gentleman that I really believe drove an alien, and that was pretty intense.
I can't imagine.
Well, yeah, the audience. Well, I know, and I talked to him with the cameras not rolling, and I'm looking at him in the eyes, and met with him, and we had located him because he'd given an on-camera statement right after the incident had happened, as a sort of insurance policy that anything happened to him and his other people that were involved, those tapes would be released, and they are all across Brazil with various researchers. So I knew about the tape, and I knew about the interview. I'd seen it. And so we, when we found this individual, and the individual said, "There's not all the money in the world is never going to get me to come forward," and then eventually we got him to give an anonymous, statement. That was pretty intense. You imagine, like, suspend judgment. You don't have to believe that it happened or it didn't happen, but if it did, and you're looking into the eyes of someone who drove an alien around, I mean, and then having to shoulder that burden for 26 years, and what that would do, what that does to you, and pretty intense.